Hello. Hola, hola, hola. Welcome to a new episode of the Yoga for All Bodies video podcast. As you can see on your screen, today I have an amazing guest for you. Sarah Jane Thomas is a fat positive, trauma sensitive therapist with a focus on healing body image and strengthening the connections between body and mind for people to discover their own experience of inner safety and allow them to connect and come home to their own body. I'm so excited, Sarah. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. So excited to be here. I love the work you're doing, and it goes hand by hand with yoga. Yes.
Absolutely.
So I can't wait to know more about your journey, the work you're doing, and everything.
Yeah.
So I would like to start asking you,
Yeah.
how was the journey that led you to what you're doing right now?
Yeah. So, I decided to become a therapist. I, went to grad school, did all the stuff. I worked with kids a lot in agency work, like in my training. And what happened actually was a few years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I think, I was diagnosed with an eating disorder, and I was kind of like, whoa, what? it didn't even cross my mind that that would be a possibility for me, which was really a lot due to the way my body looks. There's a certain perceived idea of what an eating disorder looks like. And so I was really surprised, and, it was a whole thing to go through. I, went through my own personal treatment for that. But going through that and starting to learn about fat positivity and body acceptance and body liberation, and really just seeing the just kind of the gap in where the providers are, and how you're represented in eating disorder treatment and in therapy, and how many providers are there that are also in larger bodies and also have been through eating disorder treatment. There's not a whole bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
or that are willing to talk about it.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Good point. So I just felt really pulled to it. And this wasn't something I expected I was going to do. It wasn't like I went to school and I want to work with body image. I went to school, I went through some life stuff, and that's where I landed. I think it's the most, it's the most authentic way I can show up as a therapist. It's just where I'm pulled to go, the work I'm pulled to do, the population I want to support. That's kind of how I ended up doing body image work is kind of just going through it myself, and then seeing some of the gaps and just wanting to fill that space and create space for people who maybe need providers that look like them and know a little bit about their experience and what happens when you live in a fat body in diet culture.
Yes. You mentioned so many things. I have so many questions. Yes. First thing, for someone that is watching this interview and maybe they don't know how to define body image.
Yeah.
What is body image?
Yeah. Well, the way that I think about body image is, one, I think of it as a spectrum. So I don't think you ever land you are all positive, all negative, all in the middle. We slide along it day to day based on what's happening in our life. But body image is basically how you look at your own body, and also how you understand how your body's perceived in the world and how it shows up in the world, and how you're, perceived by the world around you. I kind of think of that on a spectrum of kind of being in a positive body image place, which isn't always attainable for everyone. There's the negative body image place that I think everyone is in at some point. And then there's everywhere in the middle, which kind of right in the middle would be body neutrality, where there's, maybe not necessarily positive or negative feelings about your body. You're just, this is my body and this is what it does and gets me through the day. Lets me eat food and walk around, or whatever the case may be. So that's kind of the way that I like to define it.
Totally agree. Yes. And as you were mentioning this spectrum, how can we live or embrace maybe a neutral or positive body image when we live in a society that sends the message that to be successful, you need to be thin. To be beautiful, you need to be thin. If you want to be like the example of success, you need to be thin.
Yeah.
How can you deal with that, and what effects has on a person?
Well, that is a great question. And I think we're always all trying to answer it, right? I don't know that there is an answer necessarily for that one, right? But it's something we're all dealing with. It's something that there are many people working to make changes around. There's a lot of fat positive activists and people who are fighting for this and to make things change and create a better environment for people. But at the same time, we do still live in it. So there are ways we kind of have to learn to cope with it at the same time, which is super tricky. But a lot of it, I can speak from my own personal experience that what I found when I have, even still, nobody's perfect, having bad body image days, I always find that if I revisit some of those kind of leaders or speakers or voices in fat activism and body liberation and revisit just the core of all of that and what's underlying it, I feel recentered again. I understand that this isn't really about me. This is about a system that was built against me and other people who look like me or in a bigger body, perhaps, just like other systems of oppression for lots of different identities that people have. So I think it's not that makes any of the problem go away or maybe even that it makes it easier, but something about that for me just kind of shifts it to be this isn't necessarily about me. This is about something bigger and something we all have to kind of help with in some capacity, I think, if we can.
Yes. Totally agree. And it's true. We all have bad days of body image, that we have that voice inside the head that you need to change this. No, you can't wear that. No. For example, every single time I have to make a photo shoot or shoot some videos, especially in a professional setting, I get that voice saying, okay, now I need to go on a diet. I need to lose weight. But I think that thanks to my yoga, I got the tools to really stop that voice and say, okay, I see you, but I'm not going to follow you right now. No, because our value comes from other things. It doesn't matter how we look. And at least for me, this is something that I learned when I was 30. So I love sharing this message. I love that we are in this interview and hopefully teenagers, young people can watch it and change that mindset, that narrative before. Because imagine if we had these tools before.
Yes, exactly. Completely. These were new concepts to me as well at 34. So new concepts, or 33, whatever age I was when I went treatment and started learning about fat positivity and these other ways to look at our experience. We don't learn about it.
And for example, I lived in an environment with my friends that we always end up talking about diet, talking about it, and it's why?
Yeah.
And it's because now that I can watch it from above, the mothers were talking about that. So we learned that was normal. That was normal to be, for example, I always remember a mother of a friend always was telling me, suck your belly in. You need to lose the weight now because when you're older, it's going to be more difficult. What fucked up message is that? No.
Yeah. And that's a message that I think a lot of us, if not all of us, have heard growing up at some point. Whether it was explicit, outwardly saying those words, or things just from other behaviors that implied, you should be making your body look a different way to be accepted. And tough. And those early experiences really do kind of set into play, like just the way that we look at ourselves as we grow up. And it gets really ingrained and set in, kind of like roots growing in. And as you're an adult, it gets harder even to kind of break away from some of those beliefs that were embedded at such a young age. So yeah, it's a challenge for sure.
Absolutely. And I think everybody struggles with this. Everybody has. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to really define the term, because I see a lot of confusion on social media, in real life, everywhere. What is fat positivity?
Yeah. So the way that I kind of define fat positivity or think about fat positivity is that I am that it's an idea of being accepting of all bodies. That it's a place where you're not going to have to change your body, that you can show up as you are and be accepted and honored and respected and all of these things, just as you are, without having to change your body. And I think it also serves as kind of I don't know, it almost like not that you can like assure safe spaces for people necessarily, but like it does kind of signify that like this is a place you're not going to, these certain expectations that society tends to put on you aren't going to be present here. That this is a place where you can show up as you are and you're not going to be expected to change, and you're going to be welcomed and accepted, and your whole experience is honored. So that's the way that I like to define it. Yeah.
Love it. Yes, and it's super important to say it and define it, because a lot of people in their minds, being fat positive, it's like saying it's okay that you eat everything you want to eat, that you are fat. It's like encouraging like unhealthy behaviors. And no. Do your homework. That's not what fat positivity is.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's another element of it that's really hard, is like, it is fine to eat whatever you want, and right?
Yes.
And be fat. That's also fine. Nobody owes anyone their health, right?
Absolutely.
And we don't know anything about anyone's health based on looking at their bodies.
I mean it in the sense of the haters that on Instagram, social media, they put like you. No.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And in your own healing journey or exploration journey, because we are never like totally free of these these beliefs, did movement or any kind of joyful movement had an impact?
Yeah, that I love that question. Because part of, and I don't think this is a unique experience for me, but part of eating disorder healing for many people involves stepping away from movement, because there has been a really unhealthy and harmful relationship that's been developed with movement, whether that means over exercising or whatever the case might be. And there's also certain traumas that come with movement, particularly if you grew up in a larger body. And, think about like PE and, just how it can be pretty abusive, honestly, the treatment that you might get. So it's layered and there's a lot of pieces to it. But that was what it meant for me, because I didn't know how to go out and move my body without thinking I was punishing myself or thinking I was earning food or whatever the case. Like I wasn't able to separate it in any way. So the only thing I could do was kind of just make some space for myself away from movement. So I took a long time that I wasn't doing movement at all. I was letting myself rest, and my body changed, and that was also its own hard, difficult thing to deal with. Moving less and your body changing, it's tough. And I will say, I think I did actually participate in a trauma, it was a therapeutic yoga group for trauma. That was a couple of years ago, and that was really powerful. Really powerful. Just a lot of like reflection and like sitting in certain poses and writing and art. There was a whole lot of stuff to it. It wasn't like just solely, doing yoga poses and movement through it, but that was really powerful to like kind of pay attention to how your body feels in a certain position or when you're moving a certain way, and seeing what comes up for you too. Because something I always notice, like when I'm in Shavasana, like I'm crying 99% of the time. Like it happens.
Me too. Yes.
Like just tears come, and it's amazing what like release can come when you are moving your body too. So there's that piece. And recently I also started doing some movement with a trainer who is really also in ED recovery. And so they're also very aware of all that, and been really just gentle and kind of making a lot of like modifications and things for the way that we do the movements that, I don't have to feel like totally drained and like, ugh, at the end, I can feel like, oh, I actually can feel into my body this whole time. And it's really powerful, I think, to be able to revisit movement and also like reject some of those rules of what we think exercise is supposed to be and what movement's supposed to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can definitely relate because I grew up, when you mentioned PE, physical education, I felt it in my gut.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up listening and having proof of the message that I wasn't good for sports, that I was the slowest one,
Mm-hmm.
that I always jumped so little. And the grades, at least in my school, where the person that runs the fastest is the best grade. So if in PE, I always had the worst grades because my body's not made to run.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's terrible.
Terrible. I don't know if they still do it, but that's terrible. Oof. The best grade was to the student that was able to do the more crunches, the more squats. So for me, that was horrible. Horrible. So I grew up hating movement.
Same.
Like getting belly pains before physical education.
Yeah.
So when I discovered yoga, it was like, wait, but I'm moving my body here. And of course, I got that voice saying, especially when I wanted to become a teacher, that voice, but you're not made for movement. You are not made. How are you going to be leading a class if you can't do chaturangas, if you can't plank?
Yeah.
So one more time, especially if you're a teacher, a school teacher, cancel that language because it's so harmful.
Absolutely. Another practice that I know happened for me growing up in PE, and there was like a time of the year when they would come in and basically like measure everybody, and like there'd be like a line of students getting weighed and like having you like do push-ups when maybe you physically aren't able to do a push-up, which many aren't, and that's fine. But like you're just, it's such a, you're just compared so blatantly, like in front of all of your peers in a really obvious way that's super harmful for especially like a teenager or like a tween, a young person in general. I mean, it doesn't matter what age, and adults, like, yeah, it's like wild to me that happened, but and I hope it doesn't still happen. I don't know though. It's been a while.
I'm talking 10 years ago, so hopefully that's canceled, even prohibited in schools.
Yes.
Hopefully. Yes. And I always lived in a war with my body because one, I was convinced that movement wasn't for me. And I also was convinced that I needed to change my body in order to fit, to be accepted, to be loved, to be able to have a seat at the table, at the important tables.
Yeah.
And so the moment I created Yoga for All Bodies, my flag was, let's change that. Change it. Because it's not true.
Yeah, absolutely.
It can be, it's the biggest lie out there. and we buy it and we start getting in all these programs in January at the gyms to no.
Yeah.
No.
Oh man, definitely.
It's a whole world. It's so much information. This, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And what impact had when you discovered this freedom of movement at the end of the day, that you have the choice to maybe one day move, maybe faster or slower, maybe lifting weight, maybe going for a run, but it's not like one more task, obligatory task in the day. How did that change the relation with your body and your mind?
Yeah, well, I think that it's still actively kind of developing for me. I mean, like you kind of had said, there's not really like a place you arrive that you have achieved healing. It's ongoing, right? And we're all starting at different places. We're, in different places along that journey. And I think that what I've noticed is there's just almost like I'm able to have a sense of excitement about movement that I was not able to access at all before. And I think having like some safety around the movement and knowing I'm not going to be pressured or all those things that were really traumatizing as a kid growing up, and just from the messages we get from the world around us, just knowing those aren't going to happen. It's just kind of liberating, and it lets me feel a little bit more excited about moving again, which is something that feels so foreign to me. I've never had that experience, really.
Yes. Same here.
Yeah.
The other day I was doing my laundry and I realized that all my clothes are yoga clothes. And that's something that if you told me 10 years ago that I would be a yoga teacher, that I would be moving every day, but in a way that feels amazing.
Yeah.
That it's not like, for example, up to 2 years ago, I used to wear a smartwatch that had the calories, the steps. I retired that. Now I only
did that.
retire it. I only use it now because it has a function to help me with the pictures. It's the only use it has.
Yeah.
But no counting, no calories, no. And that day when I retired that and I retired my FitnessPal, I knew freedom.
Ooh, everyone retire MyFitnessPal.
Yes, everyone. Cancel it, block it, delete it, and subscribe, everything.
Yes, please.
Yes. So harmful.
Oh, definitely. They have a big role in eating disorders and perpetuating those eating disorder behaviors, because you're literally wearing a reminder that's like buzzing at you every X amount of minutes to do something, which is wild.
So, and one more time, at least for me, all these like brave moments came because I was practicing yoga.
Yeah.
Because that yoga allowed me to, one, reconnect with my body. I was always in a war, and I remember that exact moment when I reconnected with myself. It was in a restorative yoga class. That the teacher, it was at the beginning, like I had been in the room like for 2 minutes, and the teacher says, bring the hands on top of the heart and find your heartbeat. I haven't felt my heartbeat for years. And that simple thing of feeling the heartbeat, though every single time I tell this story, I get a reminder. And I felt the heart, and I knew that this was something powerful. So powerful.
Yes. Yeah, that's amazing. Oh, yeah. I mean, it really is just, yoga is just such a powerful tool, in a powerful way to like connect with your body and connect with just like your core and the things that are important to you. It's kind of spiritual for a lot of people too. It's amazing. Yeah.
That's why I like to share the message that this is yoga, that you can be seated and it's yoga. You can be laying on your back and it's yoga.
Yeah. I love what you do. I think it is amazing. Like I was always that person that when the yoga teacher said like maybe you can like skip out on this thing, like I was like, oh no, I can't do that. Sit that one out. I'm not allowed to do that. Like and then once I actually did it a couple times, I was like, oh, this feels nice.
It changes
deciding
everything.
what I'm gonna do. Yeah, like making it so it's comfortable and you can like really relax into what you're doing. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Like you're just making it so much more accessible for so many people. It's amazing. So thank you for what you're doing.
I do it with all the heart because
Yes.
I had bad experience in yoga classes.
Mm-hmm.
The worst experiences. And I get stories every single time. For example, the one that always for me is like, what's wrong with that teacher? I don't know who that teacher was, but the story is the following. A woman was in a yoga class in a warrior 2 with the arms like this. So the teacher came and grabbed the underarm. Yes, and told her, those are not yogi arms. You should come to my sculpt class. No.
Oh my gosh. That is horrific.
Horrific. So that's the fuel that I use every single day to say, don't say stuff like that. Don't think stuff like that.
Yeah, it's so, because it's like doing harm. You imagine maybe people want to be teachers and help people with yoga, but that's harmful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it goes hand by hand with who you study, what type of yoga you study, because
that makes sense.
Even in my training, I'm not going to say what training,
okay,
because I watched this video, but a teacher said, I don't care if someone can do this in class. I don't care if someone is pregnant. It's their responsibility. And I was like, okay. No, you can't say things like that.
Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It is tough when certain systems, the people that are maybe like higher up in the systems, have these beliefs that are harmful at their core and are then teaching people. It's tough. Yeah.
But luckily, we have social media, we have YouTube, we have newsletters to really be disruptive.
Yes, I love that.
Yes. And if someone is watching this interview, and maybe they have never been to a therapist, what are some signs or some signals that maybe they need to go to therapy?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that there are many things that could signal that talking to a therapist would be helpful. I mean, there's things just generally like you're having a tough time, like you're feeling anxious or you're feeling depressed, or things that feel really general and don't feel necessarily attached to any specific thing. Particularly around body stuff, if you're noticing like feeling really hung up on your body or feeling really like critical of your body, if you're noticing like just small things make big impacts on your kind of well-being in a day, things like, oh, this pant is a little tighter today, like, and then your whole day is just a mess after that because an emotional place. I think those are good cues. If something small that you do kind of gives you a big emotional response, there might be something else there to explore. And so I think those are some of the things. Same thing with like, if you're noticing yourself just being really rigid and hard on yourself about like eating or food or movement or any of this stuff. If there's not space for like rest, if there's not space for breaks, and that you get really distressed by not participating in or doing some of those behaviors, that might be a good time to just check in with someone, because there's oftentimes a lot more underneath some of those behaviors. Tough.
Yes. And what tips could you give also to this person on how to find a provider that really resonates with what you need?
Yeah. Well, so my practice is really highlighting people who live in larger bodies, and being able to provide like that space for them. And I think for anyone, but particularly if someone's looking for someone who's going to be accepting of, all bodies, I always feel that looking for like health at every size providers, people who are informed about that, that is like a major like signpost that like this person, looks at things differently. And I mean, I think just also talking to some different therapists, like talk to a few people. It's like a relationship, like any other relationship, and you want to be able to trust the person you're talking to and feel comfortable. And sometimes that means you have to meet with a few people before you find the person that it feels right. So yeah, I think there's a lot of elements that go into finding a good match for a therapist, but I think that's one way to find someone who you can know is going to be more accepting of all bodies. And yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
One more time, you have the freedom to decide who do you want to speak with. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. And finally, how can people find you? Give all your information, all the details, everything.
Yeah, well, I'm on Instagram and it is at embodiedself_SF. That's like San Francisco. And my website is my name, sarahjanethomas.org. I can be reached through my website contact page or my email, which is also on my website. But yeah, those are the main ways to get in touch with me or learn a little more about me.
Amazing. So now you have all the information. And go and follow the Instagram. You won't regret it. Thank me later. And anything else you would like to share with the viewers of this video podcast?
That's a really good question. I think that something that I like to share with people, especially speaking about like social media, is that like I didn't know that you can make your social media what you want it to be. And you can decide if, scrolling through your social media is going to be triggering and upsetting for you and make you think bad about yourself. Or you can make it a place where you scroll through and you're seeing like affirming messages and people who share your beliefs and people who support you as you are. And I think that's something important to do and really tune into yourself. And if you're getting a sense that like, this is making me, not have a good feeling inside. Like I don't feel so great about myself when I see this post, that's unfollowing. It's your friend, Meeting people, you can curate your experience, and not just in social media. You can do that in life too.
Super important message.
Yeah.
Yes, totally agree. Yes. My feed is full of dogs, cats.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love bunnies. So
yes, super important.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. I can tell because it shows how passionate you are about this. So thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing it here in the Yoga for All Bodies video podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for the work you're doing too. I think it's really amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And if you're watching this video, like it, share it, subscribe, because this is a message that everybody needs to know. Your body, your mind are perfect the way they are today, and yoga is for all bodies. See you. Bye.